Welcome to the Leedz Edutainment Podcast, featuring in-depth interviews with people in hip-hop culture, based out of New England. Leedz. Oh, good. We're good. We're good to go.
Okay.
There we go. A little preparation, but we're good.
No problem.
You're able to take a nap? Is that what it was today?
Man, you know, I had to take a serious nap yesterday because I was on there for 2 hours, so I had to take a power nap. I get naps all the time because I get up at like 3, sometimes 3 in the morning. And if I have like an idea, I'll come in and do some shit. So I'll be up from 3 to like 5, 6, and then I'll stay up. And then during the afternoon, I'll get tired and I'll take naps. You know, so I was one of those mornings I gotten up because sometimes like me and Colleen, we do the Beatminerz show every Sunday, so we do mixes, so we gotta keep filling them. So sometimes I'll get up when she's sleeping and I'll like lay a couple more songs in. I'll mix the shit so when she gets up, she doesn't have to do too much. And I'll stay up the whole damn day, so I'll get tired like 5:30, 6, and then I'll just be like, I'll tell her I'll take a nap, I'll sleep. But yesterday was one of those days because I slept. I think I didn't get to sleep till 6, and then I woke up at like 8:30, so I was rested. I was able to withstand it without being tired. So yeah, I'm cool today. I'm fine. I took a small nap because I knew that you were today, so I was like, fuck it. I slept. I went to bed like around 12:30. Got up at 2:30. It was cool.
That's good. You could take naps. I haven't learned the art of that yet. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I didn't know. I ran when I was younger, and now, I'm a little older, so now I like respect my body to. If it's telling me it's tired, I'll sleep. I'm not like I used to be before. Like I'm still good, but one night out partying for me, like if I'm out DJing, I gotta recover for a day. Like before, I can just run.
Yeah.
Now it's like shit. One night out, like heavy DJing, I'm like. Next day, I'm like, damn, I ain't doing shit. Just staying in, drinking water. Next day, I'll feel good. But naps are, I like taking them because it kind of resets you. You know what I mean? Doing a lot of stuff during that day and you got something to do, it resets. Like if I would have did that interview yesterday, like with no nap, I'd have been like, so I was able to reset. And that's what a nap does to me. Like if I get tired during the day, I ain't got shit to do. I'll set the alarm for a couple hours. And, a couple hours sleep, I'll get up a little groggy, but then eventually I'll wake up. But at least I got that little bit of rest to give me a little bit more energy to do whatever I got to do,
Yeah. Especially when you live kind of like an unorthodox work schedule.
As you know, it's fucking a musician life is like that, dude. I've been doing this shit for years, touring and we was going on tours. I was eating all this fast food, but then I was just feeling sluggish for the tour. But then, because like for the past couple of ones that we did then, I started just eating healthy. My body felt really different when I started eating like salads and shit. I would refuse to stop. We saw Denny's everywhere we went. I was like, dude, there got to be some other shit than Denny's out here, man. Like everywhere. Yo, we're going to Denny's. I'm like, dude, y'all can go. I'm chilling. I ain't going there. Yeah. But the reset is good for me. Because I do a lot. Like I get up and work and fucking do all this music shit, my ears, my brain, all that shit. I just got the MPC-1 now, so I'm fucking with that a lot. So now I'm really up now. I'm like doing all this other extra shit. But yeah, naps are cool. I know Colleen, she really can't take naps. She's like that. She'll be like, I can't do that. It's like a tease for me. If I take a nap, I'll just get up and feel bad. I'm like, shit, go ahead, I'm going to sleep.
And we say Colleen, we say DJ Safire, correct?
DJ Safire, correct.
For those that don't know Colleen, I know Colleen. But...
Yeah, you know Colleen. DJ Safire.
Shout out, Boston staple.
Yes.
And on that note, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Leedz Edutainment Podcast. We got a very special guest today, DJ, producer, turntablist, Mista Sinista. How are you, brother?
What's good, Mr. Leedz? How are you?
Thank you. You talk about you've been doing this in the music business for a while. I read up on your bio. You got into music early at 6. Is that right? 6 years old?
Very, very early. Very early. I mean, my whole family. I was around music. I was around a musical family. My grandmother was in the Dizzy Gillespie era, Louis Armstrong, and I was hearing all that stuff as a kid. Then my mom, she brought me into the James Brown and the Flip Wilson era, all that stuff that passed around that was going on in the 60s and 70s. So my father was a DJ as well. He DJed for spots in New York, Dance Interior. He's the one that actually got me into DJing at an early age. I'm like five or six. He got me into that DJing stuff. So I've been around it for a minute. I have a whole musical background. My family's in music, so I was around it all my life. I was basically born into music, and my father was the one that was the first one to introduce me to the turntables, and he got me into it. He put me up on the chair, and he used to let me feel the mixer and stuff until I got smart enough to do it myself, and then I used to just wreck everything. So he started hiding it because he knew I was gonna wreck it, so he started putting it away. I used to always watch him, so he's the one that got me into the turntable aspect of things, or being interested in the DJing facet of it at that age.
And this was in Queens, right?
Correct. Queens, born and raised.
Nice. So what was he playing back then? Because this must have been the 70s. Like, what was he spinning? Like, how was he doing? What was his technique back then? Because hip hop is infancy.
Well, back then, really no blends and stuff like that.
Right.
He was basically just playing music. Like, he was basically playing music, letting something fade out and go in, like the old school style of doing stuff like that. And he was playing stuff, there was Casey and the Sunshine Band, of course. Average White Band, most of those bands that were out, he was playing. Average White Band. I remember, wow.
Parliament? He was playing Parliament?
He was playing Parliament, George Clinton. He was playing that stuff. He was playing Aretha Franklin stuff. Like, he was pretty much playing a mixture of stuff, not just 70s.
He was just rocking DJ parties, right? Is that what he was
doing? Just basically doing that.
Just playing music at parties.
Facts.
It also said in your bio that he was spinning break beats, though.
Yeah, he was doing those. He had break beats. He was spinning.
Nice.
He was spinning those too. Blind Alley, the famous ones that on the Ultimate Breaks and Beats. He was
right,
but he had the original records of those.
Yeah.
He had those, so he was playing some of those as well. Those were in the mix as well with him. And I got pretty much the collection that he had. Of course, it's in the hard drive now, but I had him in records. But I got his whole collection.
And did he have 1200s?
He had 1800s.
What are those? I don't even know what those are.
That if anybody doesn't know techniques back then, those are very expensive. 1200s were expensive, but they had 1800s, and the difference, they only made a limited version of those, and they made those, and the difference with the 1800s are a little heavier, they're a little bigger, but with the 1800s, people always ask me the difference. Like in the 1200, how it has the green light, and that's like accurate pitch for both turntables.
Yep.
The 1800s had click on everything. So when you clicked it, you hear accurate pitch on any speed you put it on.
Oh, wow.
But Techniques only made a limited version of those, but he had a pair of those. I remember those. I was trying to get them. Yeah, he ended up getting rid of them. But I was trying to get those. Later on in life, I was trying to get them, but I couldn't. But he had those.
Dope. Like I said, I didn't even know those existed.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't know. They were limited versions. And they also had 78 speed on it, which was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Nobody plays 78s no more.
No. When do you get your own? How old are you when you get your own pair?
My own pair?
Yeah.
I got my own pair at 16.
Wow.
Very young. I worked very hard for that. I worked at the backstore. I worked at Pathmark. I remember I was working at Pathmark. I was going to school and I was working at Pathmark. At that time in New York, you had to have working papers. That's how far that shit go back.
Yeah.
It was under 18, you had to get working papers. You had to go fill all this stuff, and you got working papers, and then you were set. And, I got a little job, and that was the first thing that I wanted to get. So I saved up back then, $3.35 an hour. Shit, I don't even want to remember that. Imagine that, like $3.35 an hour.
My first job was $5 an hour, so.
I'm
a little younger than you, but low minimum wage. I remember that.
Yeah, minimum wage was terrible. I mean, I guess for then it was okay because the economy wasn't like it was now. So you told somebody that shit now, you're like, for $5 an hour, you bet. Shit. But,
you can't even get a soda for $3 these days, right? Seriously, I bought a soda the other day. It was $3. I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Man, Leedz, I'm gonna get back to your question. I stopped at this spot the other day to get 2 oatmeal cream pies. these cream pies cost $1 in New York. Dude, they charged me $7 for 2 pies.
Yeah, dude.
I said, yo, it took me a minute not to argue with the dude. I'm like, yo, dude, you can't be serious. Like, he's like, no, they're fucking $3. They're $3.50 a piece. I'm like, this small shit is Boston, Mass. I realized that quickly as the more I was out here. The prices out here, they're like, they don't have any shame in having prices. They just doubled.
And that's crazy because you're from New York, and New York is fairly expensive too.
Yeah. The only place I see prices like that is in Manhattan. Yeah. Like, you go to the hood stores in Queens and the Bronx, you don't see that.
No, yeah, they'll get yelled at for that shit.
But yeah, so I saved up and I got my first set. They were belt drives. They were called Audio Techs. So I saved up enough to get one. I got that one, and I saved up the next money to get a Gemini mixer. And then I saved up the next week, a couple of weeks, I got the other Audio Tech. So I started with belt drives. 1,200 was literally out of my price range at that time. Yeah. I wanted them, but I couldn't get them. So I was like, you know what? I'll just get some Audio Techs. They looked like they were like curved on and stuff. So
you can't scratch on those though, right? You can't scratch.
No, you can.
On the belt drives?
Wow. Yeah, they were. You literally have to put like some serious slip on it. Like I'd have to cut wax and put something under the bottom so the record would just be like, it'll just go back. But I had to make some serious slip maneuvers for those because
you were like MacGyver. You were like MacGyver with that shit. Yeah. Because I remember those belt drive ones when people try to scratch on them, be like,
Joe, those
so bad.
They're bad. They were bad. They were really bad.
You could mix on them though. You could mix.
You could do that. You were able to accurately pitch things, but I really appreciate those turntables now because it trained me to be light-handed with those.
Yeah.
That's the one thing about those. I made them work. I definitely made them work, and I had nothing else. I was like, well, it's got to be either I get a pair of these or I don't have nothing at all. And I was like, fuck it, I got to make these work.
Right. That's hip hop right there. That's hip hop, making it work, right?
Got to, the only way.
So you got those, and then it says here, the '90s is kind of where you cut your teeth as a DJ, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned this DJ Dr. Butcher as one of your mentors.
Amen.
I don't know much about him. Talk to me about him and his role.
Well, Dr. Butcher was me and Rob's mentor. Dr. Butcher, aka Drew, Dr. Butcher. Dr. Butcher did a lot of work with a lot of artists. Like he came up in our neighborhood. He was messing with Royal Rich, who was actually another good MC from Corona. He was doing stuff with LL Cool J. He was connecting into all of these guys back in the early 80s. And he actually did scratches on Cool G Rap's Wanted Dead or Alive. If you listen to Cool Is Back and all these songs, he was the one that did the cuts for those. He did the cuts for some of the 4, 5, 6 album. And he was doing all this stuff back in the 80s. And he was very dope at the turntables. He was very skilled at that time, very advanced for his level. And I got introduced to him through my boy Eddie. He came to my house one day because he came to my house. And I mean, this is after the time I thought I was like really good. I was listening to the radio, Pete Rock, Marty Moyno, New York. They had all these stations coming on. And I kind of patted myself after these guys. They all influenced me, like Red Alert, Chuck Chill Out, Marley Marl came on, Mr. Magic, all these stations. And I was just basically listening to the radio for inspiration. So and Pete Rock started coming on, big shouts to him. And I was just emulating these guys. Like, and I thought I was ill. I thought I was the best. And I was like, oh man. I got to house music for a time where my boy gave me some, I started hanging out with these other kids and they were in the house when that was coming up. So I'm happy they changed the trajectory of my life doing that. I love house music and freestyle. But anyway, this kid Eddie came to my house one day and he knew that I DJ'd. And he was like, yo, Joe, you got to go to this guy Drew's house, man. Like, I just finished calling from his house. He was doing some crazy shit. And I'm like, man, get out of here, man. I wasn't trying to hear that. I was like, man, ain't nobody better than me. I was all on that shit. And he was like, no, I'm telling you, man, you need to go over his house. So I finally decided to go. So I walked with him up. He only lived like 10 blocks from me. And I walked up to this dude's house, and Drew was a very humble dude. He said, hey, how you doing? I was like, yeah, how you doing? And I said, Eddie was telling me about that you DJ. He said, yeah, he told me you DJ too. So we went back and forth with this, and then he we were both looking at each other to get on. He's like, "You want to go on?" And he eventually went on first. So this, to make a long story short, when he went on, I saw what he was doing. I didn't even want to get on anymore. Like that's how the level of what he was doing was so crazy. And I'm like, wow. I knew at that moment I had to learn from him because I knew none of that. I hadn't been exposed. I hadn't been exposed to that type of DJing. I didn't know it. I didn't know. I knew about. I've seen tricks from Cutmaster DC and basketball and all that stuff, but the stuff he was doing was kind of like next level stuff.
So he was doing like he was doing tricks and turntablism, basically.
Yeah, he was like his scratching was going crazy. He was doing beat juggling. He was like making beats with the records. I've never heard none of that before. Like this is my first time literally getting exposed to that type of DJing. Before I was just scratching and doing radio blends and stuff like that. And you know, he was like, yeah, so I told him, I was like, dude, I would love to come over here and practice with you. Like, I would love to come over here and learn from you. More like learn from him, not practice with him. So he was like, yeah, man, I have another guy that comes over here that he comes over a lot too. And that ended up being Rob Swift. That's how I met Rob.
Yep.
And me and Rob were going over there and we were just under Drew. We were under him. Like, we were under him. We both had the same passion. We just learned from this guy because he had so much skills at this time. And that's when Dr. Butcher would play these tapes of the DMCs and play these guys like Aladdin and Jazzy Jeff and Cash Money. And again, I was not exposed to none of that. This is the first time. I didn't even know DMCs and seminars existed before this time. And I saw this and I'm like, seeing all these dudes doing all this shit. And I'm like, yo, this is, man, I'm like way far off where I need to be. Like all that best stuff went out the window. Like I was just like, I gotta start at the beginning again. And so that was my first introduction to any type of stuff that you can do like that with the turntables, even scratching heavy. He's the one that introduced me to that. So big shouts to him. And that's Dr. Butcher's an X-Men as well, but he's like the mentor. He's the one that introduced me around to all that stuff and basically trained us, which is what we're doing now.
You talk about the DMCs. You end up entering the DMCs.
I did. Yes. I entered the '93 DMC. I entered that first one because I went on tour. Rob entered the '91. He came in third, then he started going to practice with X-Men. He came back in '92. He won that DMC, and then I said, I'm going to join this one. So I ended up joining the '93 seminar. That was my first competition. It was head-to-head. And my goal was just to go in there just to show people what I can do. It ended up good. I came in second in that seminar. And right after that seminar, I got offered by Joe Fatal, big shouts to him, to go on tour with Cypress Hill's House of Pain, Soul Assassins tour. I was on the road with him. So when I came back, I ended up joining the '93 DMC, and I came in second place at that one. And got good praise for it. Everybody was like, yo, you should have won. I didn't care nothing about that. Sometimes the win is to lose. The lose is to win. I just cared about people knowing what I can do. That was my goal. And I hit my mark. And I came back in '95, and then I won that DMC. I won the Northeastern.
Nice. What is this controversial performance you had with playing Method Man? What is that? I didn't understand that.
What is it? Controversial?
There was something in your bio that said you had a controversy. It was a controversial DMC performance that included playing Method Man.
Oh, they must have been. Okay. They probably that's the one that everybody was saying that I should have won.
Oh, that's why it's controversial.
And that's where I did the Method Man routine at. So I guess the public worded it like, yeah, it's controversial. He should have won because everybody was saying I should have won. Yeah. And so I guess they worded it controversial. Like, yeah, it was controversial because everybody was saying he should have won and he did Method Man over. Yeah.
What did you do? What did you do with the Method Man record?
I just juggled it.
Yeah.
I made it sound different. If you ever heard it, I can send you what I did, but I made it sound I switched it up, slowed it down,
Yeah.
and used Meth's part that he said, like that, baby boy. I did that and made it I changed it up. I just changed up the whole record. I mean, people love it. It's one of the favorite routines that people always ask me to do. Like, yo, can you do Method Man? I'm like, wow, yeah, I haven't done it in a minute. But so I slowed it down and made it sound different. At that time, Wu-Tang was just coming out. That was his single. So everybody was like, damn, he took this single and just made it sound crazy, you know? So
yeah, talk to me about some of the tricks that people do with the records in more detail for people that don't know.
Well, if you're not familiar with tricks, you know, for the regular average person,
right?
Tricks can anything physical you can do. You know, you can go behind your back, you can flash, you can go behind your back, you can go under your leg, you can go use your back to hit the fader, you can you know turn back, you can use shoulders, you could use things. I know people that have got up on chairs and use their feet to go back and forth. Grandmaster D, I was talking about this last night. Grandmaster D from Houdini was only 5'1", 5'2". He's a very short guy. So what they would do at their shows, another form of trickery, when he would get his set, they had two dudes that would grab him by his legs.
Yeah.
They would hang him upside down, and he would just do tricks on the turntables. I never saw no stuff like that. I thought that was so creative because he was short, and they were able to do that. And everybody that saw that was like, yo. So, you know, stuff like that you can do what the record says. Like I know Kane has his verse where he goes, you think I'm losing? Picture that. I've seen people go back and forth and pull out cameras and picture that. Little creative stuff like that. So tricks can be anything physical. I don't really like gimmicky tricks too much. I don't usually do gimmicky tricks like doing what the record says. I mean, it's good for like a real commercial crowd. I'm more of the physical guy that likes to be fast and, you know, behind my back and under my leg and like a lot of visual stuff that people can see, you know. So those are like examples of tricks. You know, you can use anything you want. You can use any part of your body, pending that you can do it if you're physically, you know, ready to do it, or if it's possible, like this, you know. So those are the things.
yeah, that's dope. So after this, you said you start touring. You tour with Soul Assassins, and you also go on tour with. Is it Common? You go on tour with Beatnuts?
Common.
Who else did you go on tour with?
I was on tour with Common for the most part. Beatnuts, I was on tour with them. I went on tour with Lauryn Hill.
Yeah.
I was on tour with, of course, the group, the X-Ecutioners. And I've also been on tour myself. Like I've done spot dates myself, just touring solo. Right. I've done a lot of scratch.
Yeah. And then you made it on some big albums too. You made it on Beatnuts album, Common's album, and Fat Joe's album.
Correct.
In the 90s. I'm still talking about the 90s. I'm not even jumped yet.
Yeah, that's okay.
But these are big momentum builders for you, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, just that whole thing with Common worked out. I mean, the Beatnuts I got from Vic. Big shouts to Vic. Vic was producing. I was actually going to Vic's house. He lived at the block from me. I was actually going to Vic's house and doing work with another guy called Art Real Smart. And Vic had a studio at that time. So I was doing scratch work for this guy that was renting sessions out. And Vic used to always tell me, like, yo, your scratches are great. And I knew that Vic was in Relativity. Remember the label? I knew that he was dealing with those people. I would always tell Vic, like, yo, can you give me some work? Like, I'm here if you like my... So he would, you know, I knew he was busy. He wouldn't get back. So I decided to take my own path and join the seminar and do all that. So once I started doing that, Vic started reaching out to me. I knew Juju and Les I knew Juju from the hood. He lived in my hood. He used to always pass. And Vic happened to be doing a track, which was Are You Ready? And he happened to be, so he called me and was like, yo, Sin, you want to come and do scratches for the Beatnuts? Like, I got some work for you. So I was like, you don't got to ask me twice. So I went to the studio and did it. And then when I was there, they gave me another song, which is Super Bad on that album, on the Street Level album. And it was great. I really respect those guys. They took my career to the next level of getting my work in on business sense of credits. And from that, they were on Relativity. So the manager, Peter, started to get me more work because they like that work. So I ended up going on the road with them. Next thing you know, Peter Kang, he comes in and goes, well, this is new guy. The Common was already out. I knew about him. He was in the Unsigned Hype, and he already had out Can I Borrow a Dollar? He already had that out. You know about that. I'm pretty sure you do, because you're a hip hop dude.
I've heard of it. I don't know.
Yeah. So not too many people really know, because I know even himself when he's on shows, he's like, yeah, I came on my first album, Can I Borrow a Dollar? And he's like, yeah, I think like 3 people only know that one. But well, it was great working with Common, man. Like, I know Rashid, big shouts to him. It was very great. This guy allowed me to do what I wanted to do creatively. He's a creative guy. We got together. It was great. I mean, he allowed me to do what I wanted to do as far as creative wise, and he's just creative himself. So I ended up going in the studio with him because he was in Relativity as well. He was just working on Resurrection. He was working on a new album, and I was already scratching for the Beatnuts. And Peter Kang was the manager for him at the time. So, of course, Peter Kang started to take me on as a manager. And he asked me, yo, I got another guy named Common that's working on an album. He wants to know if you want to do a couple of scratches for a couple of songs. I said, you don't have to ask me twice. I'll do it. So went to Mirror Image. We stayed in there for a month. But while I was going to those sessions, I bought the 93 DMC tape and I was in. I bought it. I would play it in the studio occasionally. We have free time. And he saw it one day because he came in from getting some food. And he's like, I was watching it with Troy Hightower. He's like, yo, is that you? And I'm like, yeah. I was in the competition. And he was watching it for a little bit. He's like, yo, man, you dope, man. So I was like, thanks. So nothing more was said about that. But then I did the 2 scratches that I did for the songs. And we ended up sitting around looking at each other. And I was like, well, I guess, it was good working for you. It was good. And then he just asked me to do the rest of the album. He said, well, if you want to do the rest of it, you can. And I was like, fine. So that's how me doing all the scratches on the Resurrection came about. Actually, classic. Resurrection. Yeah, go ahead. You were saying something?
That's a classic. That's it. Just as a classic album.
Thank you. I was just about to say that Resurrection was the last song that we actually did. And it was the hardest one that I did. I didn't have anything for it, and I had to sleep on it. And then in the morning, I realized that Nice and Smooth said that. But I was busting my head for like 3 hours trying to figure out what was the right thing to scratch for that. And it came like an epiphany. Like the next morning, I rested and I got up and I had the Nice and Smooth record in my bag. And we did it. When I put it there, everybody looked at each other. Me, Troy, Comedy, like, that's it. That's the scratch. And it's bugged out like the praise it gets, because I know how long it almost took me to do it. Not laying them, but just finding it. And I'm just happy that I took time to rest on it, because at one point I was just going to be like, I was going to try to find something that relates to Resurrection, like a sentence. But it was better that I did wait, because that cut just fit that song,
And I will stop you real quick, but
yeah,
that's another part of DJing and being a turntablist that a lot of people don't really. It's not just cutting the song track up. It's like you had to know
right
hip hop and know what to scratch, and that's
absolutely
a whole other thing. You got a good memory for that.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. I always tell people that there's a lot of DJs that just scratch. Like at one point in the time, remember in the era where people were just scratching the I sound, and they were scratching things that had nothing to do with the song, just because they wanted scratches on them. And
right.
I believe that you have to, like, for me, myself, I try to be a musician, because scratching is a production. It's part of the music. You're an instrument adding to the music. And sometimes being too technical, it's no sense to be that. You have to be a musician that adds on to the music. That's why when Premier came, I loved when Premier was scratching, because every one of his cuts matched with the beat. Like, it just went, and musically it sounded good.
Right.
And that's what you had a point there with that. I definitely agree with you. It's about doing that and scratching, like, doing that type of stuff.
Know your hip hop.
Yeah, you have to. I'm good with that. Like, I'm good with scratching and knowing things and looking for parts. I've been doing that for years. I'll find things. It works better when the MC has something for me, and I'm like, okay, but they don't. I'll find something to take, even if it's a small part. I'll piece it together. If I got to piece other things together to make a sentence, I will. Yeah. It could be one word from somewhere else, and I have 2 words from somewhere else and another thing, and I'll make it a sentence to make it sound like it's just one word. Because you got to put your all into it to do it. And I like people that want to come to me and go, we want Sinister to do the scratches. And I take that shit very seriously. And like, it's an honor for people to come to you and want you to do that because I give them what they want, So he asked me to go on tour with him, and I was on tour, and I got to do the second album with him. And what happened with that is a lot of people don't know this because a lot of people still ask me, like, and I get it got a lot to do with Common being an actor now, and I still talk to him, why you didn't stay with him? We had a solo deal. We got a deal with Asphodel, and that album did very great. It did 91,000 without no promotion, whatever. So we were going on tour with Common at that time. And we were all on the same tour. I remember doing our shit and then breaking down. I left one set on the stage for his stuff. But when we got the deal with Loud, we got that deal. It got different, and we went on the road as a 4-turntable band, which we were doing with Asphodel, but we were able to still be independent. But Loud had another agenda for us, and of course, if we go on the road as a band, I can't leave the X-Ecutioners. I got to be a part of that because we can't work. So I had to go. I had to tell Common I had to go because we had our own deal now with Loud. And, I let him know if I can do shows, I can. And he wanted me. He actually wanted me to stay. But Dummy is actually the one that, a great DJ, a great friend of mine, Dummy's the one that replaced me that he got. And Dummy's been with him ever since. Dummy got to be with him his acting career, and he takes Dummy all the way with him. I saw them at a Brooklyn Fest like not too long ago. And Dummy was like, come here, he wants to see you. And he's calling me in the back and stuff. So that's the reason why I didn't stay with Common as far as that's concerned, because we got our own deal. And with your own deal, you have to do your own thing.
Right.
So
I definitely want to talk about the X-Ecutioners, X-Men, yes. X-Ecutioners. Talk to me about the formation of the crew.
Oh, okay. Well, the formation started a long time ago with Steve D. Big shouts. That's the cut technician. Big shouts to him. Steve D was on the road with Guy and all this stuff. Guy, Teddy Riley's a good friend of his. He was doing a lot of this stuff. And Steve was the only one that was joining competitions back then. He was the only one that was doing that and practicing. So Raider, Sean C., Johnny Cash, all these guys are from uptown. DMD, Derek, Fat Man Scoop was also down. Steve was the forefront guy there. He was the one that was DJing and joining battles, and he was the one that was really making the noise. And Raider and Sean and them were going to Steve's house to get inspiration from him, to learn from him. So that's where that started. So Steve would let them in, and Steve would let them practice, and eventually they got their own stuff, and they would do their own shit. And so Steve was like, well, you know what? We'll start a crew. At that time, the Supermen were in charge. Big shouts to Clark Kent. Cool with all these guys, all the Scratch, Richie Rich. That time, Clark Kent was really reigning. The Supermen were the quote-unquote best DJs. You got Scratch, who was the EPMD, Richie Rich, third bass. These guys were in competitions. They were judging competitions. Clark was running them. And Steve was like, look, they're the Supermen, we're the X-Men. And we're going to show them that we could just blow them. I mean, back then it was all, competition, who's best DJ and whatever. Yeah. So that's where that started. So Raider got down. Steve put Raider down. He also put Johnny Cash down. Sean was down. DMD. So he started off battling in the house, battling each other, timing each other like DMC. It's just be a friendly thing. Everybody go to each other's house. And they started all of that. So Steve was the one that started that. Raider got down. All of them got down. So that little section of uptown basically started the X-Men. So how it correlates to us and how we got down. Rob, we already knew of Steve because Drew was showing us tapes of Steve in the battles. And Steve was amazing. So Rob joined in 1991 DMC. And he joined, and Steve and Raider were in that battle. Raider, I don't think Raider plays. Raider wasn't in that battle. Steve was in the battle. But Rob was also in that same battle. And Steve won that battle, actually. Rob came in third, but he got jerked, and it was really blatant that he got jerked, and Rob was really upset. So they gave him like a pair of needles, and he threw the shit into the crowd. Like, it was like really, like, he was really upset about it. I mean, it's crazy shit. He's like, so Steve saw that, and Steve kind of walked up to Rob and was like, yo, don't worry about it. You know how these things go. Just come back next year. Just keep your head up. Don't get worked up over it. It's only a competition. So Steve kind of extended his love to Rob, and he invited Rob uptown. Me and Rob from Queens. So he invited Rob uptown and invited him into the X-Men family of Raider and John. So Rob was going up there. And at that time, I wasn't as good. I was still coming into my own. I was just trying to practice and stuff. And I used to always ask Rob, how is it? He's like, yo, man, these guys are fucking ill, like whatever. But Rob was a little bit at that status so he can hang with him. I wasn't. So I would call Rob every day. Like, I know I was a pain in Rob's ass for at least fucking 2 months, just calling him. Like, yo, how's this? How's this? He's like, Joey, I'll bring you uptown, but you got to be ready for these guys so they battle each other. And I would just practice every day and get something. Then one day he was like, yeah, that's it. I'm going to bring you up there. So I ended up going up there and for the first time meeting Steve, Raider, Johnny, and meeting these guys. And I remember I was nervous. And I remember like, damn, these guys were like setting up they all had their records. Like they all had their records and they were digging into their records and looking what they were going to take out. And I'm just sitting there like, and Rob's like, yo, don't let him get you nervous. Just do what you do, like how you did it on the phone. And I'm like, yeah. So Sean is like, yeah, I'm just waiting. I got some new shit right now. I'm ready to take out anybody. Like, and I'm like, he's talking like that. And I'm like, well, Rob, he's not helping, man. I'm still nervous. This dude is like already saying he's going to burn somebody. And I'm like, so anyway, I got over that. And I started going uptown and practicing with them. And it motivated me to get better from being around them. And I started just to practice and apply different things to stuff and just started to get better at what I was doing. And eventually they ended up putting me down. And we were down, and then we put Drew down a little bit later. And that's how the X-Men formed. So we were all practicing. I always tell people we were an introverted group. The X-Ecutioners, the X-Men were always introverted. We practiced with each other. We rarely practiced with people on the outside. We wanted to keep our essence where we wanted to keep it. And we battled each other. Like we timed each other in the house. Like we used to set it up. Sometimes the battle would be in my house. It'd be Raider against Rob, or we flip the coins. And so we all were doing that. So when we went to DMCs and seminars, forget it. We were ready. Like if we saw you, we were already prepared for a battle. So if we saw you and we knew you were going to be in a battle, we study what you do, because if some of these guys are already in the battle before, so we already know what you do. So we're like, all right, well, we know we can get them at this way, this is, this, that. So we were always practicing with each other and always with each other practicing, and that's how that got down. And we stayed doing that until we started getting offers for doing shows around New York. That's in the good old era days, man. That's when Tramps was around New York City. You had Vinyl. There was so many places. You had Lyricist Lounge. There was so many facets of things to perform at. And we were running into everybody. Just the era. We were running into Natural Elements, Natural Resources, what's the group? East Flatbush Project. All those groups that were doing shit then, it was like a melting pot. Everybody ran into everybody. Most Def, fucking Talib Kweli. So we were doing all of that. And we were just doing shows. We were getting booked for spots. And we were doing them. We were going in, doing them. We got a lot of them. Sometimes they want all of us. They want two of us. Solo, we would all do it. And it got to the point to where Joe from Fat Beats, big shouts to DJ Jab, he is a DJ himself. People don't know this about Jab. He's also a DJ as well as a store owner. Because I worked with the first Fat Beats that was ever there. Nobody knows that. And then I worked the second Fat Beats. So he believed in us, and he was like, yo, man, nobody's messing with you guys like that? And we're like, no, like we're just doing shows and doing stuff. And he was like, look, man, I can, he made a tape of us called Exercise, which is the first video we had. And he made that and he put it out in the store. He sold it in Fat Beats. And then he ended up managing us for a little bit. He brought us to a couple of spots, Connecticut, and he brought us to upstate, and he was traveling with us. So he actually was a big part of our career. And he actually introduced us to another side of DJing and traveling out. But we were still getting a lot of shows. So that's how we started, just grinding and doing all these shows in New York, whatever place wanted us, we would DJ, we would do that. Anybody that needed scratch work, I would do it. We would do it. You need scratch work, I'd be in the studio. I remember always being in Making Records where I met who was Jean Grey, as you know her right now. She was What back in the days. Big Pumpkinhead was there. OT was making records. It was Pumpkinhead, Meat Pie, Ocean. They all were in that facet. And so that's how we basically got started. We were just doing all those shows, and the word got around. And then we did the ISP battle with the X-Men, as you know. DMCs, we were at, they asked to judge stuff. Just basic grinding and moving around before we actually got approached by Asphodel. And they asked us if we wanted to do an album. And we were like, bet. So it went from house practicing to DMCs to shows to like just doing regular shows to a label asking us if we wanted to do an album. We said yes. That's where that door opened up for us. Hope I explained it right.
Yeah, that album that you got, what was the label you said?
That was called Asphodel. ASPHODL. Yeah.
And did they do the Built for Scratch album? Is that
no? We got signed. That was on Loud Records.
Okay. All right.
That was Loud.
Confused. So Expressions is Expressions the first album?
Expressions is the first album.
Okay, cool. And that was put out by this
label. Yes, that was put out by Asphodel.
And who's in the group at this time? Who's at the group at this time?
It was me. Oh yeah, I forgot to skip. It was me, Raider, Rob, and Eclipse.
Okay. And then by the second album you add who do you add? You add
it was still 4 of us.
For some reason I had in my mind it was 5.
Nope, only 4 of us.
So it's you, Rock Raider, Total Eclipse, and Rob Swift.
Yep.
That's it. Okay.
That's it.
I thought there was a fifth. I thought there was I was like the fifth Beatle, the fifth.
No, it's fine. If you probably get it with Boogie Blind and Precision.
Yeah, it's just sorry.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. So,
but you guys were the blueprint though for anybody wanting to be a DJ, because I remember I wanted to be a DJ. I was a DJ in the late '90s, and I'd see you guys performing, and I'd be like, dude, I don't even want to do this. I'd be like, I think everybody would be like, Sinista, Raider, these guys are fucking crazy.
Honored, man. Thank you for that, man. We never knew we was gonna. I never even expected to have that impact on people. I really didn't. So when I hear it, it's like an honor for me. I'm very grateful that has happened. We performed in Boston a lot. We performed at this. I don't know if you. I know there was a spot down here. Safire told me because she said way back. She said she came to one of our shows out here.
Yeah.
And I was like, where? I forgot exactly what the place was, but we've done Boston a couple of times.
Yeah. I can't remember if I've seen you live. I don't think I saw the whole unit live.
Okay.
But you guys, like I said, were the go-to, and it seems like Turntables and Scratch when you guys were coming out was reaching a peak, like a plateau, and by like 2001 or 2 or 3, probably like 2002, they make the Scratch documentary, and it's like this is a whole thing now. Like turntablism, and in Japan they're saying that the Scratch is mightier than the guitar, and
can you believe it?
And it's like I'm blown away, because I'm always thought like DJing was this really underground thing, turntable thing, and now all of a sudden it's mainstream.
Yes.
I was like, holy crap, and everyone's got a turntables, right?
Absolutely.
That must have been crazy to watch for you.
I remember people saying, in the Scratch, somebody said, I just think that this is going to be a fad. It's going to go out in 10 years. And it didn't. It was bugged out to watch the progression of it. Especially coming up and watching that they made a school for it, Scratch Academy. And I used to work, I was like, wow, and Scratch Academy? I remember I worked for Scratch Academy as well. And I'm like, wow, they made a DJ school? And I remember seeing old men coming in there and paying for lessons. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing, because you don't see that. Like, I've never seen that in my whole life. People are coming in, they got their kids coming in, and got old men up there, like, learning and sitting up there taking lessons. And I'm like, okay, so this has definitely reached another type of level to where people are really interested in it. So I've seen all of this coming up, and I'm like, wow, this is really nice. And to see groups rock groups incorporate DJs into their thing. Like Z-Trip is one of those guys that does a lot of stuff. Like when, with the wah-wah pedal, and he's hooked it up to his equipment. It's like Q was doing that, and people started doing different types of contraptions, like really making it like something as a band. So it was amazing seeing that type of stuff as it come up. And I knew that it was going to stay and that it was now considered a part of it, of being an instrument. I mean, Turntablist was made up by Babu, I think. Babu's, he's like, yeah, man, they asked him, like, yeah, people call themselves guitarists and pianists. I call myself a turntablist. Yeah. And it stuck with people.
Well, it was always the DJ versus turntablist, like the two different skill sets. Like there's people that can rock a party, but they can't really they can't do tricks.
Absolutely.
And there's people that can do probably tricks and can't rock
can't rock a party. Absolutely.
Where do you land in that equation?
That's a good story. I can do both. And I had to force myself to do both because I'm a fan of music, number one. First and foremost, I'm an artist and I'm also a fan. And I love music. So I grew up in all this good music. And I remember back then when I was in Virginia, I wasn't really working too much. I didn't have too much work. But when the Serato and all this stuff, the computer started coming with the LimeWire, that's what was out. I'm like, yo, why am I just getting booked to just I go to a party, I just do one little section of tricks and that's it. And I'm like, I like rocking parties too. What am I doing? Like, why am I just doing this? I can rock parties myself. So that's when I started looking through all my records and I started downloading everything I had because I was like, look, I want people to know that I can rock a party as well, that I can DJ and I know music as well. So you had a point with that because I've seen a lot of people that do heavy tricks. For me, tricks came later. For me, in order for you to be a good DJ, you have to be able to, your music selection got to be great. And you have to be able to rock a party. That's first and foremost. Even though I do tricks, I can't go to a party and watch the dude do tricks all night. If he can't rock a party, to me, he's not a good DJ. So Agreed. I trained myself to do that. And it was easy. I had all the music. I was like, all I have to do is play the music. What the fuck am I doing? Why am I just being categorized as a trick DJ? And a lot of people at that time did not know that because when the internet started coming out, like Ustream, De La Soul was the first one to do the dugout. That's when the radio internet shows started to become popular. So I did one called Sinister Sounds, and I was doing it for like 6 hours. Every week, I would do it at my man's house, and I would just play. I love playing music. I would just play music. And some dude from Brazil hit me up, Motto, and he said, yo, Sin, we want you to come to Brazil. I got to go to Brazil because of that. He said, look, he said it inside of the Gmail. He's like, dude, like, I never knew that you could, I thought in my mind you was always a trick guy. Like, I tuned into the show because it was you, and I see that you can play music. So that one radio show just let him know that I can play music as well, and, and not just do beat juggling and do all that stuff. So I went to Brazil and got that over there. So that's a very important point you picked up. Like,
yeah,
you got to practice from both facets, and I try to keep both. These days, I'm happy if I don't do any damn tricks, dude. I'm like, I'm okay. I do them because I have to, and I can still do them if I want to. But sometimes I just like to party. I like to rock a party, and that's why I do the radio. I like to do parties and play music and do that. But on occasion, if I'm asked to do tricks or I'm at a venue where I have to, I still have that skill set where I can execute them.
You can still pull it out of the bag.
Yep, still can pull out. I still got some stuff. Like I got some new stuff too.
So, Expression's the first one. Built for Scratch comes out on Loud Records.
Facts.
When do you leave the group? Right around after this time?
I left the group. Yeah, I left into the album. The album wasn't out. It was 2000. Let me get the year correct. 2001, maybe.
So you leave right after Built from Scratch comes out, basically?
Probably a little bit before it came out.
Okay.
I left a little bit before it came out.
You're on the album.
Yeah. I left the album. I still was a part of the album. My face on it. But I left a little bit before it came out, like maybe a month before it came out.
And why did you leave?
We had differences, as all groups have. At one point in my life, and one point in my life, I was really heavily drinking a lot and doing that. Never really on tour doing none of that, but I guess at some points it kind of like raised a red flag with the team. And they were like, yo, you know, we don't want this to be a bad look, you know. And I understood it. Years later, I understood it. But I decided to just go because I was like, well, look, you know, if it's like that, maybe we can just leave. You know, I already had credibility. I was cool. So I was like, maybe I should just go. And if you guys feel like that, I don't make you guys feel uncomfortable. But that was the separation of us for that time. And that was the reason why that happened. And I left. I left gracefully. I was like, okay, well, I'll just go on ahead and start over and then just do what I got to do. I still got my credibility, so I'll do that. But it still took a couple more years for me to get things right as far as myself spiritually. I had to go down a road, a journey. And that journey has taught me to be strong. And I've learned a lot from that journey. And I've learned a lot from experience, a lot of trial and error, a lot of falling down, you know, and never once sad, upset about it. I think the thing for me was to face it, because once you face and you admit, you free yourself from that thing that you're trying to hide from. And I was able to free myself from that. I was able to tell my story. I was able to release that. I mean, there's nobody in the world that doesn't know that. No, seriously, I've been in places bent. Yo, I've been in a lot of places like that. And I've been there. I laugh at it now. I'm like, nobody sees me like that no more. But I know them times people have seen me. I did a show out here and I was like that. Quincy one time, I couldn't make it to the bathroom. So I pissed and I literally couldn't make it to the bathroom. So the room where they put all the drinks and the wine, where I guess the storage room, 1 second I went in there. I had to go. It was coming out. I couldn't go to the back. I couldn't run over there. Couldn't go outside. So I went in there and I closed the door and I was peeing real quick. And just as I was doing that, one of the guys that worked there came back there to put something back there. And he was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, yo, I couldn't even say nothing. I was like, yo,
I thought this was the bathroom.
It just looked crazy.
Looked like the bathroom to me. I must have got this confused.
He said, yeah, I know. Oh, man.
This isn't the bathroom? My bad, dude.
Yeah, I was like, is this the bathroom? I was like, I didn't know. It looked like that. So anyway, yeah, a lot of trial and error in a minute, but those times, so that's when that happened. And those times it taught me to go on and move, and I reset. But yeah, that's when I left. I left around 2001 before the album came out. And then those dudes did Revolutions. They did Revolutions right after. That was the last album they did, was Revolutions. Yeah.
I want to talk about Rock Raiders' death.
Yeah.
Brutal. 37 years old.
Yeah.
What exactly? It was cardiac arrest. What I read was it was related to like MMA training. What exactly happened?
Well, what happened was Raider had gotten into martial arts.
Yeah.
And he was doing it for a while. And he was doing it with his daughter. He was practicing, he was doing it, and he had moved over to Maryland. And one day, while he was sparring with his trainer, somehow the trainer landed on his back the wrong way. It was one of those freak things that nobody could ever imagine to happen. But Raider fell a certain way, and the trainer landed on him in a certain way, and it did something to his spine. It severed something in his back, and that's how it happened. And he was paralyzed from it. It was just a freak thing that happened, and that's what paralyzed him. And he was in the hospital. We all came to see him. And he was okay. He was sitting there. We were all telling him, like, yo, you're going to get back. I mean, it's hard. We told him it was kind of hard to do it because, of course, all of that, you paralyzed, all of that is years of therapy, and years of walking and years of practicing again how to walk again. And we were just keeping him in good spirits. But we all saw him, and Ty was with him, and I don't know, I guess he didn't want to hold on. I guess he didn't want to, because a day later after we saw him, we found out that he died in the bed. So I don't know if he wanted to die, what happened. I don't know if there was any type of complication. I don't know. I think he just let go. From what was told to me by Ty. I think he just didn't want to live, So that's how that came about. It was a shock for all of us. We just were like, wow, man, like it just came out of nowhere. I mean, I was coming from my mom's house, and my friend told me. He found out. He's like, yo, I got something to tell you. Yo, you gotta, you gotta just relax. And he told me, and I just remember just bugging and crying that whole time. And so that's how that happened, man. Life is we have to enjoy life as much as we can. You never know any moment or what it's gonna be. So you have to kind of enjoy the moment and enjoy the things that you have and try to cherish them while you're here, because you don't know what's going to happen. And that's what happened with him. And it's just one of those freak things that could happen to anybody,
That's brutal. Rest in peace, Rock Raider.
Thank you. Amen. Amen. He's with us in spirit. We
yes.
always keep him in spirit. We always represent him wherever we can. Always we show him we do one of his routines. So yeah,
he was a hell of a DJ, man. He was a hell of a DJ.
Yes, always giving us the spark.
Badass. Badass fucking DJ.
Oh yeah. If you ever remember the battles, man, one of your boys, the best battles was him and Ninja B.
Yeah. Crazy, man.
Yeah, man.
So after X-Ecutioners, what do you get right mentally, spiritually? What do you start doing musically? What happens then? Start working on your own albums? You start putting together albums?
I already had stuff that I was doing out there. I was basically at one point, I started to hook back up with Rob because I hadn't seen Rob for a minute. I was only seeing him here and there, but I had lost contact. Not lost contact, we were both on our own journey. Yeah. And Rob had hit me up one day and was like, yo, Sin, I know that you're around. He was like, yo, let's just see if we can do some videos together. And I was like, all right, cool. So me and Rob had started hooking back up, and we started just doing these practice videos in the house, like literally just doing practice videos, like just being over there, filming stuff, posting it on YouTube. And we did like around 12, 13 of them. We were getting a lot of great responses. Like people were like, yo, good to see Sinista again and Rob back together. And yo, y'all guys. And from that, we got offers to do shows out of nowhere. And that was right after I wasn't really doing too much. So that was like my first introduction back into doing anything, because I was really not active. I was other places doing little things, but I wasn't creating anything. I was just, in limbo. And we started getting shows from those things. So we named ourselves the Odd Couple. And we started doing shows. We were on a roll. We doing videos. We did basically like a tour from videos, and we were doing that, and we were getting it. So I remember going to Rob.
I still mean to stop you. These are like educational videos on how to scratch and stuff like that?
No, not even. We weren't doing. We were just bugging out with each other and practicing and just putting stuff together, like just filming ourselves at work, coming up with a routine. Like, So, we started to do that, and we got good feedback. And then when we realized we were getting shows, we started to put these things together. And then somewhere on the line, after like a couple of months, the show started to slow down. So I told Rob, I'm like, yo, you know what? We can live off our name, and we have a name, we'll always be around, but I don't want to do that forever. We should put out an EP or an album or something. And Rob was like, I don't know. So we decided to do that. And A-Track, who actually has a label, and he was like, he wanted to put it out. So we bet. So we made an EP, the Odd Couple EP. That was the first one that came out. And that did okay. And we got more work from that. So that was like the introduction back into my music. And then we did a second album, the Odd Couple album, and we did that. So after that, Rob started to do more things with ESPN. I was over here, and I was not really doing too much. I was getting stuff here and there. But Rob was like, well, look, I'm kind of doing the ESPN thing now, and, I'm going to kind of chill out with the Odd Couple stuff. And I was like, go ahead, do your thing, man. Wherever you got to make your money, go. So I was in limbo, and I was just chilling out. I had a couple of cuts, stuff that I put out that I was thinking about, but I didn't have my equipment yet. I was still in the midst of getting money to get equipment, and I didn't have none of that. So I wasn't really in the mode of doing an album. I was just like, all right. And then at one point, I was like, you know what? You know, I think I told him that last night. I was like, you know what, man, I think I've had a good run. And I literally said this to myself. I said, I had a good run. I think I'm going to just retire. You know, and I remember telling a lot of people that. They were like, yo, Sid, what are you talking about? Don't do that. You got a whole fucking thing ahead of you. I was like, yeah, but, you know, I don't have my equipment. And stuff's not really coming through. I did the odd couple stuff. Rob's doing his thing, and he's going ahead. And I'm just tired of waiting around. So I was like, I had a good run. I made a name for myself. I'm good. If I retire, I'm fine. Like, so I was planning to make an IG live and announce it, but for some reason I never did. I don't know. I think it's the Lord that had something else in store. So I got invited to go to a Lost Professor party, a release party in New York. That was at Project Parlor for my boy Chester. And I went there. This was like a couple of days before I decided I was going to retire. So I went just to go check it out because I fuck with Lost Professor. And I went, and I'm in there, and I'm at like crowd, people, yo, sing what up, man. And I'm just there, and I'm seeing this DJ up there, this white girl up there, this fucking DJ, and I don't know where the fuck she's from. I'm like, I figured she was from like Brooklyn. I'm like, so I asked Toshi, who's Toshi, I said, and I was listening to her and like just playing some dope shit. I'm like, wow, it's pretty good. So I said, Toshi, who is this girl up there that's DJing? Like, she from here? You know, Toshi had the Japanese accent, so he's like, oh, Sinister, no, that's DJ Safire from Boston. She's good, right? I'm like, yeah, it's pretty good. I'm like, I'd never seen, you know, I thought she was from over here because Brooklyn has a lot of white girls that DJ. So he went up there when she came off. I introduced myself to her, and she was like, yeah. And we only talked there. So I was like, yo, you should ask him for like a monthly here because you kind of dope. And she was like, yeah, man, I don't know. So anyway, that was it. So another 5 months went by, and I was just doing scratch work for some people. Some little bit of scratch work came back, and I was doing that. And then Mike Hands asked me to do the same spot at Project Parlor for his release party, and this is 5 months later. So I did it. And now this time I was DJing for his party. I was the person playing the music, and as I was DJing, Sapphire came in, and I'm like, yo, I said, yo, it's good to see you. And I was on stage, and I was like, yo, come up. But she came back, and she was like, I was like, yo. So then I said, come back, come up here. And she was like, no, I got to go DJ in the front room. So she was like, yeah, I took your advice, and I asked them, and I've been doing this every month. I was like, wow. So, you know, that was cool. So I stopped after I finished that section of the party ended, and I usually go home after that, but she was DJing in the front room. So I was like, you know what? I knew that she was playing some hip hop before. She's pretty good. So I decided to stay. I was like, you know what? I'm going to stay and chill with her because I liked what she was playing. And I was, you know, I was okay. I wanted to hear. And then when I went to go see her, she was playing some totally other different stuff, like some classic funk stuff and a different format. And she was killing it. And people in there dancing. I'm like, there's something about your ass. Like, I don't know, but there's something. So anyway, we started talking on the phone, and every time I spoke to her on the phone, we had good conversations. She was always like, well, I gotta go, I gotta get in the mix. And every time she would tell me this, and I'm like, man, she's really doing something. So she finally came out, we hooked up, and then I came over here and I started hooking up. And then she was like, you know, I do a radio show. Do Beatminerz, and that's why every time you call, I got to edit. I do 2 hours of a mix, and I got to edit it myself. So I'm always trying to do it. She was like, "Yo, you know, if you want to do it with me, I would love to have you on it." And I was like, "Bet, I'll do it with you." So I did one episode with her, and we just kept doing episodes, and we loved DJing with each other. Our chemistry was great, and we just kept doing. So now I'm DJing with her. We doing all these episodes, and it was DJ Safire featuring Mista Sinista, which we leave it at. But after a while, you know, because I came up with Evil D and all of them, those dudes are my fam. So they started seeing that I was on more than like 10 to 12 shows every week. So they hit her up and they were like, you know, it was like, you know, we see that Sinister's like on your show a lot. Like, can we add his name to the show? You know, and yeah, because if you look at it, it's DJ Safire featuring Mista Sinista. So when they first saw it, they just thought it was featuring me one time. But they kept seeing episodes where I'm on it, and like it got to like the 15th episode. They're like, "You got to add his name to it," because you know. So I was only focusing on the radio show, and that's all I was doing, and wasn't thinking about an album, whatever like that. So nothing really. I was just, but I was a little bit more. Now I was on the verge of, well, I'm not going to retire because now I have the radio show with her, and I found some more excitement in that, and I DJ great with her, and so Safire was telling me one day, she just kept telling me, you know, why don't you do like some Instagram posts of you DJing? I'm like, nah, I don't want to do none of that stuff. Nah, it's just, she's like, no, you know, maybe people want to see you. They haven't seen you in a minute. And I'm like, nah. So anyway, I just decided, one day I got up and I was like, you know what? Maybe she's right. I don't know. So I did one video. I think I was just scratching something. And I got all this fucking traffic, like for that one video. And people were like, yo, he's back and yo, whatever. And then from that one post, I got like 6,000 views. And then some company from London hit me up, like, yo, Since, we want to do an interview with you. This is all of a post. And I was like, wow. So they hit me up and they're like, yeah, the guy was interviewing me. He's like, yo, man, we just see like a whole bunch of stuff, a whole surge of things happening now. Like you weren't around, but now we just see you emerging and coming with all this stuff. So that started. So I started doing that, doing little videos or whatever. And then I was going out with Safire to the B-boy circuits and just watching it because I love B-boy and I used to do it myself and getting involved with that. But then she started to beat me in the head again, like, yo, you should put an album out. And I was like, nah. I was like, well, look, I only have a couple of things that I have. And I don't really feel like I'm ready for an album. And, you know, she was like, no, you know, maybe you should put one out. And I was like, well, look, I'll think about it. So I let her hear, if anybody knows, the Jean Grey song on my album. I know Jean Grey, we're very good friends. She doesn't want to rhyme anymore. She's on a different direction. But she did the September song that I got on my album like 20 years ago. And it was on another label called, I did a project called Just for Starters that didn't get that much light. So it was out, but it didn't have as much light as Fat Beats had. But I let Safire hear that song. I was like, well, this is some of the stuff that I had that's already up. And she was like, yo, that is hot. You should put that out. I told you should do an album. And so I'm like, you know what? You know, it's a woman for you. They're very persistent. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll do that. So I said, I'll do this. You know, I'll put that out as a leak because I knew all the radio stations. We were DJing for Beatminerz, who they're established. I sent the Jean Grey song out to at least 9 to 10 people and asked them to play it. I said, I'm just trying to see what feedback I get from it, just to see if I want to move forward from that. And the feedback was great. So I was like, you know what? This is definitely going on the album. And for some reason, a wave, I can't explain the feeling. I always say it's God because I was already good. My mentality, so I was at a different spiritual level. And for some reason, a fire just came back in me and it just hit me. And I'm like, yo, let me look for artists. Let me look for people. And I started to look for artists and I started to get some people that I felt were good. Like I reached out to James, who was my manager back then. He knows all the people. I'm like, yo, who can I get? Like who? I mean, I would love people that are in my era. So he got me UG and Mike Hands already knew. I had a song with him and Dead Poets. I met Colleen introducing them online, but she said these guys got good beats, and I talked to them. They were honored to work with me, so I got them. I knew about M. Dot a long time ago. Colleen actually hit him up and was like, yo, Since is out here. Would you like to do something? So that's how I got with M. Dot and got M. Dot to do the collaboration. And I put everything together. It took me 5 months, dude. I literally hibernated for 5 months. I didn't do anything. I hardly answered the phone. I don't want to talk. My goal was just to make an album that was going to be classic and that it just wasn't going to come and go. I wanted to hit people in the head, and that was my goal. And I wasn't even thinking about business. And then people were like, yo, when are you going to put it out in? And I'm like, dude, I'm not thinking about any of that right now. Right now, if I don't put out if my songs are not good and I don't take care of what I got to take care of here, there's not going to be any deal. So I have to concentrate and do this and make the best album. I don't want to put it out and the fans are disappointed. This is my debut album. So when I got like 5 songs down, I felt confident and I said, who better than to put it out with? Fat Beats. I know Joe. I got a personal relationship with him. I worked at the store. I called him up and asked him. I said, Joe, I'm working on a project. Are you still putting anything out? Would you be interested? He said, Sin, of course, man. So what I did with Joe was involve him in everything that I was doing. I let him hear things that were coming together because Joe is not just a record owner, he's a DJ, and I got a personal relationship with him. So I was letting him hear the album as it was being put together, and he's like, yeah, man, yeah. He never once he had suggestions, but he let me go on my own vision. He didn't have any expectations. He said, Sin, I know that you have a lot to say. It's been a minute since you've been doing anything, so I'm just going to let you express everything. Because if I try to alter that expression, it's not, you need to release because you've been in limbo for a minute. So he let me go on and take my the singles, what I decided to put out, and all of that. And he allowed me to move. And that's how that came. So when I was finished, he was like, yo, it's good. Everything was great. And he was like, look, we came to the picture part. And I was like, well, I got some pictures. I had a picture. I knew I wanted to name my album Reborn because I was already reborn spiritually and mentally. So I sent him some pictures of a baby. I sent him like a whole bunch of shit. He was like, yeah, the baby's kind of cool.
The baby pic.
I sent him a baby. I sent him a picture of somebody holding a baby. Like,
it's just a random pic of like
some random shit. Yeah, like Joe was like, Sin, that's kind of like, that's funny. He said, I got you on the Reborn thing, but that's not.
Yeah, who is this kid anyway? Who this kid is?
Yeah, like, who the fuck is this kid?
We don't even know what the baby is. Where it's on the album cover. I almost wished I made it, Sinista.
Yeah. So Joe said, I got some pictures to send you, right? Yeah. And he said, I got some. Just pick some you want. I don't know, because he didn't know. So he sent me all these pictures over, and one of the pictures that he sent me happened to be this picture right here.
Yeah. Right? I noticed that's an older pic. When's that from?
Joe, that picture was taken in the second store because my job was to play records for the people that came in.
Yeah.
That picture was snapped by Eclipse, and that was me playing records in the store. But they caught me looking down, and that is actually in Fat Beats. The background is Fat Beats. Yeah, and I saw that picture. I said, it's a no-brainer. Got to use that picture. He's like, I was hoping you picked that one. So they had that picture since 1996.
Dope.
And that picture is taken at the store when I was working there. It makes sense. It correlated with the album.
Who took it? Total Eclipse or DJ Eclipse?
No, DJ Eclipse took it. Not Total, not our member. Yeah. DJ Eclipse took it.
Yeah, I know. There's a difference. I know the difference.
Yeah, there is. So, yeah, that's how that came about. And I was like, yo, I think I've done a great album.
That's pretty. I'll stop you. That's pretty impressive to put together, work that many artists and tracks in 5 months. That's pretty impressive. You must have really been shutting off the world.
Thank you. Because I appreciate that.
It usually takes longer than that.
Oh yeah. I did.
So let me ask you quick. Who did the beats on it? Who did the beats on the album?
I had feature producers. I had Nick Wiz. I had Dead Poets.
Yep.
Aton Noise.
Yep.
I did one track, of course, there. And I had Safire did a track. She did B-Boy Funk.
Nice, dude.
Yeah, that's her era. She did it great. She did a B-Boy track, and she produced that one.
Nice. So basically you were overseeing the project. Basically, you're getting the beats, and you'd be like, I want these artists, these rappers on the beat, and then you'd like cuts. That's basically how the process works.
Yep, exactly. I'm scratching on every one of them. I wanted to do it that way because I like Pete Rock and CL Smooth Balance. I think that it was just one style of production. I wanted, for my first debut, I wanted how people feature MCs. I wanted to feature producers other than myself. I wanted the album to have a different feel for each song. And that's why I chose different producers to do my album. People are like, yo, why you ain't do the whole thing yourself? I'm cool. I did one, and I have featured because every song you see is different in its own right, you know, and it hit its mark with that. Second album, I got myself an MPC one. Probably gonna start doing more.
Hey, here we go.
Yeah, I did a remix to Verbal Assault already. If you never heard it,
yeah, I did. It was dope.
Okay, thanks. I can send it to you. I'll send everything to you. I have, but yeah. So here we are now with the album out. It's doing great, but I'm grateful. I did my release party on January 11th. The digital copy got released on the 12th. And when I did the release party, we left. It ended at 1. So it got released 12 o'clock midnight that night. When me and Safire were coming back to the hotel, it was like maybe like an hour after the release party. I said, let me check to see if the streams, these were 100 streams. The album was already on 65,000 streams in an hour.
Very good, brother.
Yeah, it was grateful, man. I'm just so grateful that I set out to do something that I was able to get this surge of energy and just have it back. And it feels great and to keep going. And I'm thankful for all of that, man. I'm thankful that I didn't retire, and I'm thankful that I had a positive influence in my life to put the fire back inside of me to do this. And I'm still grateful for all this stuff. I'm still absorbing all of that stuff in. And I'm stuff is still coming out for me. I'm still releasing stuff. I'm not planning to stop anytime soon. I think I got more stuff in me to get out, you know.
keep it coming, brother.
Thank you.
Well, we gotta wrap up, man. Is there anything else you want to plug or shout out?
Yes. I had to give a shout out to everybody, man, the whole world. Big shouts to everybody. Big shouts to all the people that were in my corner that believed in me. Big shouts to you, Leedz. Big shouts to all the radio stations. Big shouts to Beatminerz. If cats don't know, we do a show called A Rewind. That's Beatminerz or Beatminerz Radio, www.beatminerzradio.com. Safire featuring me. Shouts to everybody. And it shouts to everybody that's doing music. Shouts to everybody that's up and coming, that's trying to do music. And shouts to everybody that's staying positive and doing what they're supposed to be doing and rocking. You know, I'll be here forever if I shout everybody out.
Well said, brother. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into the Leedz Edutainment Podcast with Mr. Sinista, Melly. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes, thank you very much, Leedz, and God bless.
Salute.
Peace.